On behalf of ISKCON founder Acharya, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada, I would like to welcome all of you to ISKCON Naperville. If there is anyone here for the first time, you please collect a gift from us, a book from the book table. Today's class is by His Holiness Romapada Swami Maharaj, a very senior disciple of Srila Prabhupada with over 50 years of practice in Bhakti Yoga, and it is under Maharaj's nurturing care this whole congregation has grown over the past so many years. So please give a warm welcome to His Holiness Romapada Swami Maharaj.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjavi Hadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjavi Hadi Gopi Jana Balabha Girivara Dhadi Gopi Jana Balabha Girivara Dhadi Jasodhanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jasodhanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Kiravana Yadi Jamuna Tiravana Yadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjavi Hadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjavi Hadi Gopi Jana Balabha Girivara Dhadi Gopi Jana Balabha Girivara Dhadi Jasodhanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jasodhanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tiravana Chadi Jamuna Tiravana Chadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hadi Jayo Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajagacharya Astatarasatasti Simad. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki, Gaur Premanandi. Does this little girl have a landing place, or is she gonna? Somebody, the mother can help the daughter find a nice place to toddle around in. It's very cute. This is your daughter here with the Gap sweatshirt on? You're very enthusiastic. You want to know what Prabhupada said about what you just did? Your devotional life has begun. There are different systems of yoga, and according to Bhagavad Gita, one of them is the Uttama, or topmost form of yoga, and that topmost form of yoga is bhakti. And what you just did, you began your bhakti yoga. You probably did before tonight too, but you got nice tilak on, and it's so simple. The topmost for yoga is so simple. Prabhupada said so many times, even a child can do. Go to arti, come before the deity, pay obeisances, clap hands, dance, sing, and take prasadam. How simple can you get? So well done. As you see on the screen here, this is a very fancy temple. We have 3 screens, all with the same image. So this is the cover picture of Bhagavad Gita. So we're going to be speaking about Bhagavad Gita. And the particular topic about Bhagavad Gita has been given the name the Gita Values Project. So what's the background of the Gita Values Project? There was a devotee named Shesha Prabhu who was going to become the GBC chairman. For those of you that don't know what the structure is, that's, the topmost leadership is Governing Body Commission, GBC, Governing Body Commission. So he was in the rotation to become the chairman of the GBC, and you might be surprised, you might not be surprised. There's no job description. Oh, really? No job description. There may be now, I don't know if there is, but I was once a GBC chairman. There's no job description. So he wanted to do his service of being the chairman nicely. So he consulted some fellows at Oxford University who are also devotees, professors and devotees, and learned fellows. And he said, is there some guidance you can give me from Bhagavad Gita on how to do the service of being the chairman of the GBC? And they said, well, let's work together. They're a collaborative group. There's several devotee professors, and they, plus some people, not me, but people like me that move around and teach Bhagavad Gita. And so they, in a collaborative effort, they came up with a very succinct 6 values that express the message of Bhagavad Gita. And then after refining it, they came up with a paragraph for each one of the 6. And I think what I'll do is I'll send it to somebody who can circulate it to everybody, or something like that. It's just what the 6 are, and a little paragraph that describes what each one of the 6 values. So with spiritual culture, there's values. One of the topics that's nice to meditate on when you're pursuing spiritual life is to align your actions and your speech with your values towards a certain goal. Krishna is the goal. And there's values, and then there's speech and behavior down here. And put the whole package together, and that's called culture, spiritual culture. So one of the models that they used was this one. It's a corporate model. Supposing one corporation buys out another corporation. Sometimes that happens. And one of the first things they do is they look at the culture of that organization they just bought. What is it and what they want it to be? Natural. So they have this system which applies to spiritual as well as corporate organizations, called the iceberg of culture. And the top is the tip of the iceberg, and that's what you can see from an iceberg. And they have this language, they call it artifacts, or something that's perceivable in a group of people, whether it's an organization or a club or a nation or a something, a group of people. What are the observable, perceivable through the senses, behaviors, symbols that are held to be meaningful, something that's tactile and perceivable through the 5 senses. That's the tip of the iceberg. And there's something that's much more to an iceberg that's below the tip, and that's the stated values. Like, a mission statement in organizations. You've heard of that language. Or what Srila Prabhupada did when he formed ISKCON. There's 7 purposes. In order to form the organization, it was required by law, so the government could evaluate your purposes to see what category you fit under. So it was a religious organization, and its purposes had to conform with what the purposes of a religious organization would be. So that's your stated values, your official beliefs, what you say is important. The common language is mission statement, that's your values. And often there's an interplay between values and behaviors. Behaviors can influence values, values certainly drive behaviors, and there's an interplay between the two. It's easy. This so far is pretty easy. And then at the very bottom of that iceberg, there's what they call certain assumptions, that is, convictions that don't change. Values can change, behaviors can change, but there's some things that just don't change. Like the United States, when they formed the Constitution. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, they are endowed with their Creator with certain inalienable rights, etc. That's the assumptions part. And so assumptions are the basis of values and behaviors, or they call it artifacts. So that's the iceberg of culture. So the devotees that went on this project of what are the Gita values, the focus of our discussion is going to go to the center of the iceberg. But it's not, values is more than just information. Bhagavad Gita has information, but it has much more than information, because information is wisdom, or greater than information is wisdom and knowledge. So it's your culture, wisdom and knowledge, more than information. I'll just share one thing. There's a few people in the room that are from India. And some are children born in America, but their parents are from India. So look around the room, there's a lot of people from India or Indian background. So maybe 10 years ago, I don't remember the number, the educators of India got together and held a big conference in Delhi. And they wanted to improve the quality of education in India. I wasn't there, but I was told by persons who were there, the keynote speaker said, and it's true, education in India can be summarized in 5 words. Information, 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 no transformation. And the tradition of education in India is not just information, or IT, or information technology, or all of that. It's building of character, or transformation from less than civilized to civilized. That's what a symptom of real education is. Not just people that know stuff, but they're very cultured in their behavior and their speech and their social interactions and elevated quality of an individual. That's an educated person. And they felt we're missing the boat. So what they did was, at the end of the conference, they gave an award or some gift or some, whatever you call it. Those of you that wish to, please submit curriculum that we can use in our public education system where values are taught. They call it value education because, try not to get into the touchy topic of religion, because then you get people say this and that. So they just call it value education. Value education. So a number of devotees presented curriculum and ran, the bell rang. They won the certificate for teaching the curriculum of values. And that's what this is doing also. It's values that apply to anybody from any religion, any culture, any color, any background, anything. Just have to be in a human form of life, because below human form of life, people aren't going to hear it and understand it. So it just be a human being, spirit, soul, in a human body, and you're eligible. Pretty broad. Now, when going through values, we find, if we start thinking about the topic seriously, there's a big gap between where we are and where we want to go. It's not a shame, it's just a reality. There's a big gap between what we know, the values that we hold, and where we are presently. So that big gap, there's a nice term for it. I learned from Satchidananda Swami, called liminal space. Liminal space means between here and there. There's that space in between is a liminal space. 2 examples. In architecture, they have the same term, liminal space. It's called like a patio or a hallway. It's neither here nor there. It's liminal space. Or another example is a carpentry term that's very similar. But when you have a room and there's a door, to make a tight fit, they often put a little board across. So when you close the door, it's tight. But it doesn't rub across the whole floor, it just touches the limen. It's a Latin word. It's in between this and that. It's a limen or liminal space, or in sociology or in organizations or in our personal lives, there may be where we want to go and where we are, and there's a big gap. I'm sure we've all noticed that. Values that we hold and where we actually are. And that can be, transitioning can be like teenage life. It's pretty uncomfortable to go from dependent to independent, and what are you in between? You're uncomfortable. Going from this to that. Or moving. Some of you may have had to move from one place to another place. And it's not snap, it's a little difficult for a variety of reasons. So liminal space in spiritual culture is also may be a little uncomfortable. And so the image is meant to show where we are And on the right side is where we want to go. And there's a pretty big gap. And in between is uncomfortable space or liminal space. But Bhagavad Gita is very merciful. There's something that carries us from one place to where we want to go space. And that's Krishna. So I have a couple of other images that show the same thing. You know, you're journeying in life and you don't exactly know where you're going, or exactly if you know how you're going, how to get there, and then something else happens besides what you think is going to happen. And it's a big adventure. It can be scary, but it can also be a big adventure. So now we're going to go to one of the 6 Gita values, and that 6th value, value number 3, is amanitva, or humility. And I particularly chose this topic and this Gita value because it's similar to something we spoke about this weekend. In fact, it was yesterday evening on, it was the darker side, the opposite of humility. What's the opposite of humility? Pride. So I labeled it the beast known as pride. Because pride destroys everything good. And for spiritual life, it's a fundamental principle that one has this good characteristic of humility, amanitvam. Amanitvam adambhidvam, right in Bhagavad Gita. Those of you that know Bhagavad Gita, you probably know that in chapter 13 of Bhagavad Gita, there's the first verse is Arjuna asks 6 questions, and there's 3 pairs of 2. Matter and spirit, matter and spirit, matter and spirit. So when it comes to the first 2 of the 6, it's knowledge and the object of knowledge, because Krishna is the object of knowledge, and that's in the spirit side. And then, so he wants to know what's knowledge. So Krishna answers, this is knowledge. And amanitvam is the first item that he mentions, because knowledge rests upon it. Or say the opposite, ignorance rests upon pride. Which one do you want? I don't like ignorance, but I don't know if I like humility either. So, what is humility anyways? Here's a nice Merriam-Webster dictionary of humility. Humility means the state of being humble. That's pretty bright, huh? And then it goes on, there's a Latin word, humilis. Humilis means low. If you're humble, it's not low self-esteem, but it's like the blade of grass in Shikshastika. Some of you know Shikshastika. Some of you may not know Shikshastika. Ashtaka means 8 prayers, and Shiksha means instructions 8 times. There's teachings of Lord Chaitanya, or instructions of Lord Chaitanya, about the essence of what he came to give. He came to give love of God. And there are 8 instructions on how that can unfold. And the main force or power by which love of God can awaken is the holy name. That's what he came to deliver, the Yuga Dharma, the chanting of the holy name. However, some persons find they don't have attraction. That's the first 2 of the Shikshastika. Then he speaks of the remedy for the lack of attraction or taste for the holy name. And the first one is lower than a blade of grass, or more humble than a blade of grass. Because how significant? Supposing you're walking down the street and you see a pebble or a broken piece of grass that's now a straw, you're not going to get very excited, because it's quite insignificant. You probably are not even going to notice it. So insignificant. And the verse of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is to feel oneself lower than that, lower than insignificant. It's a spiritual conception, not the material groveling conception. It's a spiritual conception. We're quite insignificant, excuse me. Now, different cultures teach the same thing, and I'm going to go through a little bit. There's a lot of similarity between Chinese culture, I have found, and Vedic culture. There's some big differences too, like Krishna isn't there. But values are quite similar. So here's a Confucius saying about humility. Humility is the solid foundation of all virtues. And there's another fellow, a Chinese proverb, humility, be like the bamboo, the higher you grow, the deeper you bow. It's just saying that people understand, and at least cultured people try to live by. If you're not cultured, you do something else, but cultured people try to live by. Here's a sage, a learned fellow from the Song dynasty. Have character before emerging from the soil. Remain unassuming even after having reached the clouds. It's a poem glorifying bamboo, but bamboo they may be very tall. I was thinking to share this, I think I'll share it. One of the places I visited, I've been visiting China, except for the pandemic, for 14 years. And one of the places I visited is Kunming. And I was very surprised to see on the rooftop of a commercial building was a patch of bamboo growing on the roof, and they planted it. And my thought was, like, what are they up to? It was they were promoting this theme, this one, that this is a place where we have character. We have bamboo on a rooftop. Before emerging from the soil, have character. And then when you become mature and big, remain humble and unassuming. Or here's another fellow. Notice I have some liking for Chinese culture. Modesty is the foundation of all virtues. Pride is the chief of all evils. So it's a value. And then Gita it's not just add Krishna and stir. Krishna is the foundation of sustainable values. And there's, at least in this project, there's 6 in number. Humility is one, a very foundational one. So here's what humility isn't. It's not low self-esteem. Some people are like this. I'm a loser. I make mistakes. I'm bad, etc., etc., etc. And some people think humility is just you put up with other people. I tolerate you. I'm very humble. I'm not going to grovel and bark and scream and yell and blast you. I'll just tolerate you. That's not what humility is either. Nor is it just being a blind follower. Close your eyes and be humble. Don't see, don't speak, hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. Just be a blind follower. That's not what humility is either. So if that's what it isn't, then what is it? Now, often I've heard this, and it's true, I guess. If somebody is humble, don't be humble because people take advantage of you because you're humble and meek. There's a biblical saying. I was just hearing Prabhupada speaking this in a room conversation in Melbourne, Australia. Doesn't it say, and this was with a priest, I don't know what denomination, but a Christian priest of some kind. And he said, isn't it stated in the Bible that the kingdom of God is inherited by the meek and humble? And the fellow said yes, and he elaborated a little bit. So it's not this group or that group or another group. It's just a character of an elevated person. But if you act humbly, maybe people will take advantage of you. Some people say, I find that in the workplace. If I'm humble, they'll exploit me. So I don't want to be exploited. But I don't want to be not humble either. So what to do? So humble doesn't mean you never speak strongly. You got to be meek. You can never speak strongly. Speak strongly is for a right purpose. You can speak strongly. More than speak strongly, you can do what Arjuna did. Be a warrior. So one can be a spiritual warrior. And you don't have to have military weapons, but you can be a spiritual warrior and be humble at the same time. Does that make sense? So what is that? Then what is humility? If it's possible to be a warrior and to humble at the same time, it's very simple. There's a purpose to the choices that you make and how you carry out the choices that you make. And the choice is, from Bhagavad Gita's position, or a true spiritual position, is you make choices based on what's going to be pleasing to Krishna. Here's another conversation, again from the same priest in Melbourne, 1975. Are you a vegetarian? Prabhupada said, we're neither vegetarian nor non-vegetarian. And there was some scuffle, like, what did he just say? He said, we're prasaditarians. Meaning the selection of what we will eat is what we first offer to Krishna and becomes prasadam by offering it to Krishna, and we accept that only. So we're vegetarian. But we're not just vegetarian. We not just eat only vegetarian food, but we only eat that which is first offered to Krishna, which comes in certain categories of what Krishna says he'll accept. Patram, pushpam, palam, toyam. And we offer that to him with love and devotion. He accepts, and his acceptance, then it becomes prasad, his mercy, and we distribute prasadam, we honor prasadam, because we want Krishna's mercy, not just vegetarian food. I hope that's clear. So, being humble means that for Krishna, I'll make my choices of what I'll do and what I'll say and how I'll do and how I'll say in such a manner that is pleasing to Krishna. And I can speak very gently and I can speak very strongly. Or Arjuna, if that's someone's psychophysical nature, that can be a warrior, trained by Bhishma Dev and become a great warrior for Krishna. So humility in the Bhagavad Gita is a virtue which is displayed in behavior and which rests on understanding, meaning specifically who is Krishna and what's pleasing to Krishna, and the character to live that way. And humility rests on understanding who we really are. So now we're getting down to values of Bhagavad Gita. Here's a little, I like it, fact. There's a little, when Prabhupada reached New York for 1 year, nothing happened and he wasn't discouraged, and after a year, something started to happen. And very quickly, the Hare Krishna movement became a Hare Krishna explosion. And kaboom, there was Hare Krishna devotees all over the place. So the New York Post had a radio interview with Srila Prabhupada. It's really nice. Radio interviewer said, Swamiji, you come to this country, you must have come because you had a message to bring to us. What is your message about the perfection of life. Pause. Prabhupada. To know yourself. Pause. Reporter. What? To know yourself? Prabhupada. To know yourself. I mean, it's chapter 2 Bhagavad Gita. To know yourself means to know you're not the body, but your spirit soul within the body. There's the deha, the body, and there's the dehi, that's the occupier of the body. We're the dehi, not the deha. And then qualities of the soul, and so we start to get acquainted with who we are instead of who we aren't. That's the beginning. So, know who you are. That's a very important question. There's a whole little video that I'm not going to show you because it will take too long, but it's a little question on who am I? You know the little video. The boat of Theseus. You don't know that one? Okay. I was in, where was I? I was in somewhere China. I think Beijing, some yoga studio. And at the end of the class, somebody raised their hand and said, "What's your opinion about the ship of Theseus?" In China. And I said, "Where'd you hear that one?" I have an answer, but I want to hear where'd you hear it. I took a philosophy course. That's all she said. So there's a Plutarch. We're just having fun. Plutarch was a Greek philosopher who raised the question, who am I? And he raised the question in the context of the ship of Theseus. You have a good memory? No? Okay. What about your sister? She has a good memory? No. Okay. I'll say it slowly then. So, Plutarch was a philosopher, and he wanted to teach people, inspire them to ask the question, who am I? And he did so by telling a story. Long ago in Greek history, there was a king named Theseus. And Theseus was told by a person in his kingdom in the island of Crete, which is not far from Greece. It's, you have to go by boat to get to Crete from Greece. There's a minotaur, a monster, and he's threatening us. So can you deal with him? So the king, Theseus, got in a boat, crossed the sea to deal with Minotaur, and slayed him and came back. So the ship of Theseus was kept in a harbor, and every year, for 1,000 years, they reenacted the sea voyage of King Theseus to go slay the Minotaur in Crete. However, 1,000 years is a lot of time, and gradually the boat needed parts replaced. So in the course of 1,000 years, every single piece of that boat had to be replaced. It's in a little animated video of the ship of Theseus. So then the question comes, where is the ship of Theseus? Is it in the harbor? Or the man who gathered all the pieces and reassembled it and put it in his backyard, that's the ship of Theseus, and the other one's not the ship of Theseus. Or none of the above. So it's Plutarch told this story to get people, prod people to be thoughtful about the question, who am I? And the asking that question helps one become humble, because if you don't ask that question, you'll never know, who am I? But if you ask that question, it's a puzzle. And it helps one become humble because we're not very, very significant. So here's a little lesson. I shared this during the weekend. I'm now sharing with all of you. There was a devotee in New York when Prabhupada started the Hare Krishna movement in New York. There was a big devotee physically. His body was big, and he was, a powerful leader type of person. His name was Brahmananda. And Prabhupada would go for morning walks on the public streets of New York. So one day, Brahmananda asked a question, Prabhupada, how do we remain humble? I have so much service, and people are always offering me respect and special consideration, and it's really hard to remain humble with all of that adoration, profit, and distinction, and titles and stuff. So how to remain humble? Good question, right? It's a little bit of like, who are you? But the foundation of it, you have to be humble to know who you are. Otherwise, you're going to have a misunderstanding of who you are, a false understanding, an inflated understanding. So here's what Prabhupada said, with a little visual assistance. Beyond this material world, there's a vast spiritual sky. And in that vast spiritual sky, there are innumerable Vaikuntha planets. And amongst those innumerable Vaikuntha planets, there's one very large planet shaped like a lotus, and that's Krishna Loka. Then over in the corner of that vast spiritual sky, there's a cloud of the material energy called the Mahatattva. And in that cloud of the material energy of Mahatattva, there's a form of Mahavishnu, who's an expansion of Krishna. And Mahavishnu, there you see him in the cloud of the material energy. He's reclining on the causal ocean. And during the breathing period of Mahavishnu, when he exhales, these seeds of a universe expand from his body. When he inhales, they're withdrawn. And that's the universes are created and destroyed. He has a long breathing period. And within each of those universes that expand from his body, look closely at the artwork, you'll see there's another form of Vishnu called Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, who expands within each of the universes. And each Garbhodakshaya Vishnu lies on the Garbhodak ocean, and from his navel comes a lotus, and on top of the lotus is Lord Brahma. And within the stem of that lotus, the 14 planetary systems of the universe are residing. 14 planetary systems of the universe are within the stem of the lotus upon which Lord Brahma takes his birth. And within that stem of the lotus and the 14 planetary systems, there's our solar system. And within the solar system, there's one planet. There you see, planet Earth. And the planet Earth has 7 continents. And one of those continents is called North America. And one of those continents, there's the United States that has 50 states. And for here in Naperville, one of those states is Illinois. And there's a map showing where Naperville is. You see that red pin? Now, I think it's a little bit west, because Naperville is over here. How to get it? Oops. This is the laser pointer. There's Naperville. Look at that. And then within Naperville, here's some streets and highways, and then here's an old map of Naperville, and somewhere in there is the Hare Krishna temple. So in the expanse of things, how important are we? And who are we? And if we understand how tiny and insignificant we are in the expanse of the totality of everything, it's not difficult to be humble. But if you forget the big picture, you can think, something else besides humility. So how to dismiss, knowledge dismisses ignorance, light dismisses darkness. So Bhagavad Gita gives light and it gives knowledge, not just information, but knowledge and wisdom of who we are, where do we fit into this big picture of things. And if you accept that you're quite tiny, it's pretty easy to be humble. So humility is an acceptance of who we really are, and acceptance of higher teachings. Now, I'm almost done. There's a devotee. I didn't meet him. I know of him. His name is Adi Purusha Das. He's a teacher in Vrindavan. He teaches at the Vrindavan Institute for Higher Education. He's been teaching and teaching for a couple of decades. He's a really good teacher. So the temple president in the Washington, D.C. temple, Potomac Temple, invited him to come and teach a Bhagavad Gita seminar. So he did, and this is what he put on the screen. I wasn't there, but he said that the message of Bhagavad Gita can be summarized in this understanding of acceptance, like starting with knowing who you are. And they were very tiny. So when we don't accept an undesired event, it becomes anger. When we accept, it becomes tolerance. It's a good quality. Not blind, but it's just accepted. When we don't accept uncertainty, it becomes fear. When we accept it, it becomes adventure. When we don't accept others' bad behavior towards us, it becomes hatred. When we accept it, it becomes forgiveness. When we don't accept others' success, it becomes jealousy. When we accept it, it becomes inspiration. Acceptance is the key to handling life well. So this was the premise of his 1 week-long presentation on Bhagavad Gita. And included was the 6 values. I'm just touching on one of them. So in Bhagavad Gita, acceptance is demonstrated by service, because we're tiny, but there's a source of everything that isn't tiny. The source of everything is very great. We're a small part of the great. So I'm meant by design, by my nature, to be in service to the great. So that's the mode of acceptance in Bhagavad Gita. Isn't it? Some of you know the verse. You can say with me, Sarvadharmam parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayashyami masuchaha. This young man, it's a nice verse for you to memorize. I'm going to ask your father to teach you that nice verse. 1866. It's the essence of the whole Bhagavad Gita. It may take you a while to learn, but you'll be happy you did. I met somebody, I'm speaking to you now, I met somebody during this recent visit in Naperville who I hadn't seen for like 12 years. She's now in college. Not here. No, she's not here right now. Don't pay attention. Pay attention. Pay attention. It has to do with learning slokas. When she was little, she's big. But, she's littler than you. She was going to Sunday school, and she learned Bhagavad Gita slokas with a good friend. And you know who her teacher was? Shatarupa. They lived together. She and her friend lived together in St. Louis. And then the family moved, and so she stopped going to Sunday school because they moved. But it stayed with her. And then some years later, like recently, she went and visited St. Louis again, and she saw her old friend, who was also in college, and they were reciting Bhagavad Gita slokas they learned when they were kids, and they were giggling and having a nice time. Because it's meaningful. It stuck. It went in. It stayed with them. What do you think? Sounds like a nice idea? Not a bad idea. Okay. So, if your dad's okay with this, he'll teach you that verse. And if you like, then maybe 1 or 2 other ones you could learn. And it'll help you in this, because the verse is speaking about the mood of surrender. That we're tiny, But there's something that's not tiny, that's taking care of all of our necessities, everything. That not just Dad, but where does Dad get the necessities to give to you? There's a source of everything. That source of everything is Krishna. And accepting that reality is essential part of humility. And then with that humility, let me engage in service to that Supreme Great who's supplying everything. Very simple, very natural, not artificial at all. It's very, very natural. Humility is being in our natural state, acting from the spiritual platform, realizing that we are insignificant spirit souls who can make a difference when we embrace the mood of service, because service means unto the great. We're tiny, but the great isn't tiny, the great is great. And we engage in service to the great, and the power of the great becomes a gift that we can engage with and engage with others. Humility doesn't mean we should be anxious to have others honor us. This is discussed in Bhagavad Gita directly. You can look it up later. It's the Amanitvam verse or word right in Bhagavad Gita chapter 13. Here's Mother Teresa speaking on the point. If you are humble, nothing will touch you, neither praise nor disgrace, because you know what you are. Clear? Same, just different position of faith that she's coming from, but she has the same understanding. And here's Krishna speaking to Arjuna. Humility aided Arjuna to understand himself and what he must do in the greater scheme of things. And there was a plan that Krishna had. Now, Krishna didn't need Arjuna to help him with his plan. He could just lift a pinky to blink his eye and taken care of. Icha Shakti took care of everything. But he gave Arjuna a platform of service for our edification. And his accepting that position resulted in his humility. It's not weakness, but it strengthened his self-esteem, his self-confidence, his courage. It's the jewel of the broad-minded and the key to a spiritual life. Values, this is the topic is Gita values, and this particular one is humility. And when there's humility and you're able to receive, then you have knowledge. Humility gives acceptance. Acceptance gives courage. Courage gives openness. Openness gives access to higher teachings. So that's our topic for this evening. Just stepping back for a moment, the context is the Gita Values Project, which was inspired by a leader who had an important service to do and wanted some spiritual guidance how to do that important service. So he looked to Bhagavad Gita. He looked to people who were very familiar with Bhagavad Gita and very good teachers in Bhagavad Gita. And the Gita Values Project was the result. And I'll see that you get, I'll send to Jamuna Jivan and he'll see that you get at least the opportunity to go through these 6 values. And maybe you'll be interested to read them, and then maybe you'll be interested to read Bhagavad Gita, and maybe someone here can teach Gita values if people are interested in or something. So Hare Krishna. Any discussion? I've probably gone over what's our time? Have I extended beyond time? We have 7 minutes. Any discussion? Yes. Where's the microphone?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So here this slide displays that humility gives acceptance. Is the vice versa true? Like
the absence of humility means no acceptance. Rebelliousness. Are you a rebeller? You a rebellier?
No.
No. Okay. Are you accepting? Are you humble?
Maybe.
His eyebrows went way up. I try. Right? Okay, so now you were holding the microphone like you want to say something more. What more would you like to say?
No, I just wanted to ask that.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Hare
Yes.
Krishna Maharaj. It is said that here humility comes understanding what you are. That means like accepting myself as a soul
Yes.
and living by that. But this is a very big thing to
Yes,
put it
it
in
is.
practice.
Yes.
So it is easy to say, accept yourself as a soul, live by that, but practically challenging.
Well, it's a gradual, awakening is gradual. Spiritual awakening is gradual. Prabhupada likened it to the rising of the sun. It's not that all of a sudden the sun is on the horizon. There's glimmers of light before the sun is on the horizon, etc., etc., etc. So like the rising of the sun is gradual. The awakening of self-understanding, self-awareness, or our spiritual understanding of who we are, it's gradual. There's knowledge, but it takes a while for that to become realized, rather than just theoretical. It's easy, the theoretical, yeah, Aham Brahmasmi. Next. But then to live our life that way, with that shared understanding, and our dealings correspond, even when there's challenges, it's gradual to get there. But one of the things I tried to do was explain it's cross-cultural. It's not this part of the world or that part of the world, or this ism or that ism. It's wisdom is wisdom. It's not the property of any group. Wisdom is wisdom. So it's gradual. So what to do when you're not there yet? That's one of the natural questions. You follow the light and you get out of darkness. And there's light or wisdom in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Light of the Bhagavat. We have 4 more minutes. Anyone else? Nice to see so many people here on Sunday evening. Is the parking lot full? Kind of. I hope there's enough prasadam. Yes? Premananda, there's enough prasadam? Oh, good. Yes.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Does humility also means having limitations?
Having what?
Limitations.
Humiliation?
Limitations.
Limitations?
Accept
Well,
them.
that's a starting point. We're tiny. Does the tiny have limitations? It's a subset. Tiny limitations is a subset of being tiny.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, there's an enthusiastic Mataji over there.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, thank you so much. One question. Is there a difference between tolerance and acceptance?
Yes.
If you could please elaborate a little on
okay.
that.
There's, I like the term, you know what a Venn diagram is? It's a modern term. there's this and there's this and there's some overlap between this and that. There's some overlap between tolerance is often thought of in terms of something that's not pleasurable, but I don't become disturbed because it's not pleasurable. I remain undisturbed, even if it's unpleasurable. So that's resting upon something else. It's resting upon a spiritual conception of who I am. And because so some people can be tolerant and just be stoic, like, whatever. There's something, the yogis sitting or lying on, I saw this photograph of a yogi who was lying on a big cactus that had his big spikes like that. It was certainly painful. He was just tolerating it. Now, where his consciousness was, who can say? But he was practicing tolerance of something that's uncomfortable or painful. So that's tolerance. I forego some temporary because there's a longer term thing that I'm shooting for or striving for. So I tolerate the inconvenience now because there's something. And if it's resting on spiritual, then it's tapo divyam. Spiritual, voluntarily accepting some inconvenience because there's a spiritual purpose behind it. And acceptance is, there's material and spiritual acceptance. For example, Taoism, you've heard of it? Taoism? It's a teaching that says it is what it is, you go with the flow and don't worry about. There's this saying that a materialist will get a boat to cross the river, a transcendentalist will walk across the river, and a Taoist will just wade across the river. Just go with the flow. So accepting is things are what they are, supposing there's some unpleasant circumstance and there's really nothing you can do about it. You just accept it. An example I like a lot is Viktor Frankl. You've heard his name before? You're nodding yes. Some people don't know. Viktor Frankl wrote a book, Man's Search for Meaning. It was published in 1946, which was right after World War II, because during World War II, he was a Jewish man in a Nazi concentration camp. We've run out of time. We've run out of time, so you can put your hand down. And while he was in the Nazi concentration camp, there was nothing he could do about it. He's in a little prison cell, solitary confinement prison cell. And that was it. And each day somebody was taken off to the gas chamber and gassed, purposely to terrorize the people that were behind. And then each day another person. It was horrible. There's nothing you can do about it. So there's when you accept, there's nothing you can do about it. When there's nothing you can do about it, then that's acceptance. And then where does your attention go if you're accepting, there's nothing I can do about this intolerable situation? You tolerate it, but you're accepting the circumstance for some higher purpose. In his case, his higher purpose was to help people who are confined by circumstances there's nothing they can do about, and they feel all these negative emotions. He was a psychiatrist. And he helped a lot of people after the war was over, and he, besides writing his book, he was counseling people who were stuck in circumstances they couldn't do anything about. So there's acceptance for a higher purpose. And tolerance is just, can be even, there's no higher purpose to that. There's similarity, but they're not the same, in short. So I'm looking at my watch, and I'm 3 minutes over time. So we're going to end. Premananda is going to help us understand what's next.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much. Please give a big hand. Just to let you know that for those of you, there are many new faces here. His Holiness Romapad Swami Maharaj has been the spiritual teacher, guide for many of us who are serving in this temple. And I can see that there are many inquisitive people in this crowd. The number of people who are attending the Sunday feast has been increasing. And I saw some more additional hands raised. So just once again letting you know, ISKCON is a teaching institution, and we do have educational programs, Bhagavad Gita classes, so many different classes we are offering. And if anybody is interested, either in reading groups or in attending Bhagavad Gita classes, please contact Lakshmi Kanta Prabhu. Can you stand up, please? He will be available here. If you need to get additional information, you can please contact him. Thank you. I'll quickly start making these Sunday feast announcements. Before that, next week we will have our governing body commissioner, Anuttama Prabhu, visiting us. There will be programs Saturday evening, Sunday morning, Sunday evening, and you are all invited to come. Today's Sunday full day Mahabhoga sponsorship is by Amit Kumar and Rinku Mataji. They are seeking New Year blessings. Is Amit and Rinku, anybody here? Okay, can you please ask Maharaj to give? Thank you so much for sponsoring Sunday full day program. And this is quite different from this is different from Sunday feast. This is a full day offering for their lordships, and if anybody is interested, you can contact Abhay Prabhu. And Sunday feast is sponsored by 7 different families today. Dev Iyer and family, as always, they are seeking Adit's recovery, and the family is not here. Nina Chakrabarti Dimitri and their family seeking devotees' blessings and mercy for George, Nina, and Adriana. I think Nina Chakrabarti is here, please. Thank you, Nina. Saragrahi Devidasi and family. This is the death anniversary of her father, and they are sponsoring Sunday feast. Saragrahi, I saw her somewhere there. No? Okay. Sandhya Bhargav, they are sponsoring Sunday feast, praying for their children's well-being. Sandhya Bhargav, they are there? No? No? Oh, he's come. Please come. Thank you so much for sponsoring the Sunday feast. Please. Mita Gracia, is sponsoring, she's praying, she's seeking all of our prayers for the well-being of Father Kardama Muni Prabhu. Just 1 minute. Kardama Muni Prabhu is an amazing devotee and lives here with her in Naperville. And I just came to know that when he went to India just a couple of months ago, he had a very serious brain surgery and a second brain surgery. And my heart really broke hearing that, because I did not know this was a serious situation. And most of us here who know Kardama Muni Prabhu, we know how kind-hearted and gentle and sweet he is, as well as his wife as well. The whole family is going through a lot of grief, and their lordships, he is a wonderful devotee. His dependence is always on Krishna. They are seeking all of your prayers for Prabhu's recovery, so that we can all see him very soon back here in Naperville. Please, Mamita, go ahead. Thank you. Ashok Joshi and family. His mother, Kantabhai Joshi, passed away on December 22nd, seeking prayers from Vaishnavas for her onward journey. Ashok Joshi and family, they are not here. Vivek Bhushan and family, seeking the blessings for his family in the new year with intention of serving ISKCON. They are here? Yeah, please come. Vivek Bhushan. As he is coming, all of us can always do this service, distributing prasadam. So you are most welcome to come and contact Abhay Prabhu any time. But most important, every Sunday, those who are sponsoring, we are offering special prayers to their lordships. So for the spiritual well-being, of all of you and your loved ones, let us chant the holy names of Krishna. Chant after me, please. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. In addition to this, there is one more thing we have to do today. And Yamuna Jivana, His Grace Yamuna Jivana Prabhu conducted a wonderful on-site disciples course, and he will be requesting His Holiness Romapad Swami Maharaj to distribute these certificates.
So really quick, the ISKCON Disciples course is a 4-day course, four full-day course. A number of individuals participated in that to learn about who is a guru, what is the qualities and characteristics of a disciple, and how to select a guru in the environment that we're in with the spiritual marketplace. It's pretty big and lots of people. It's hard to decipher and figure some of those things out. So we had a good time. We had 12 students. I request those of you who are going to receive a certificate to minimize the amount of time we're walking back and forth. Please come forward over here to receive a certificate from Maharaj in short order. Thank you. Hare Krishna. So the first person is Mita Garcia.
Okay.
Krishna Garcia. Janavi Garcia. We had 4 teenagers join us as well, which they were very participative and enlivening to have them.
Wow.
Chitra Majumdar, or as we affectionately know her as Lali. Someone who didn't need to take it but took it anyway, Amrita Keli Dasi. And Ajit Singh, who is now Anjaneya Das. Where is he? Rupashri, Mataji. Ravindra Kopisetti. Ranjita Kopisetti. Where is she? Rachna Singh. I forget your name. Ratna something. Nanda Kishore. Nandu, you here? Oh, there you go. Saujanya. And Ajit Singh. Oh, he's not here. Okay. Thank you very much, Maharaj. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Prashadam.
It's prasadam time. It's also downstairs. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, everyone. One very quick announcement. Next Sunday, there is going to be even larger crowd than this. We are hosting a program on Sunday. So, humble request to all the congregation. Humble request to all congregation member is on next Sunday. There will be two sets of people. So, for all the congregation member, we will be making a box prasadam, and we request you to take that home, right? And so there is other program schedule. So we will have all the program as is happening today, but the no prasadam serving in the prasadam hall next Sunday for the congregation members. So we all are guests. There is a big group of people coming next Sunday. So please bear with us. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Also, if you can carpool next Sunday, I would really appreciate. So there will be less of parking. So please carpool next Sunday. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hi Krishna. I sponsored the feast today, but I didn't want to disturb everyone. Ahead and singing a blessing. Oh, they did. I didn't want to disturb everyone. I was sitting way back there. Okay. But I thought I'd get your blessing anyway. Okay. And the reason why I sponsored this is because my son has severe autism. Severe. That's why I've been sponsoring him. He's 15, but he's at the level of autism.
Really? I thought it was like from childhood. Nothing developed.
Oh, well, he was diagnosed when he was 2.5. He's 15, but then his level of intellectual ability is better. So that's why I'm responsible for this. But anyway, I thought I'd get it this.